Hey guys, EST here, and remember, sometimes it's not just weather and war, sometimes it's a financial disaster, and it might be localized to just your bank account or your whole country. In either case, it's going to make life very hard for you, so with massive inflation on the horizon, most likely, which the current administration is trying to cover with higher taxes as well, so they're going to actually print money while raising taxes, which, I mean, okay, might as well even it out, but it's gonna hit you in the bank account both ways, that's for sure. Well, this channel is all about averting small to large disasters before they happen, so why not get out ahead of this one? And I've heard all kinds of just oversimplified explanations and everything, so I'm definitely gonna take like the highest level general view on this so you just kind of get the gist of it. But I'm gonna cover this pretty extensively. So I've seen a lot of videos on this topic, and they're just like, here's a top 10 list of things you should pick up. Oh boy, look at me, I'm informed. I'm just gonna tell you what parameters to look for what to pick up, and then you'll have an infinite list of everything you could possibly pick up to avoid inflation or kind of get around it. I'm so sick of those like websites, those content farm garbage sites, and the stupid, viral top 10 nonsense where they don't even know what they're talking about and they all just steal content from each other, reorder it, shuffle it a little bit, and pretend it's their own, and they have no idea what they're talking about. If you find yourself watching that kind of content, just unsub and block them. It's just trash. It might seem like, cool, now I know 10 items to pick up. I'm going to go do it. But at the end of this video, you're going to know why this is good, why other items are not good. So you can just walk into a garage sale, an estate sale, a thrift shop, and be like, let me assess everything I see. Yes, this item, this item, this item, this item. You don't need a list because you have the knowledge. You have the why. So if you are sick of content that just says, oh, here's a top 10 list, and I left you with nothing but answers and no information, it's just the bare minimum that we could do to get views, you're not informed in any way, it's just fluff garbage, then subscribe to this one and unsub from them. You won't get viral top 10% of the information garbage on this channel. You'll get information and training and knowledge from this channel. Stay tuned for the whole rest of the video if you want to see what I mean. So if inflation is coming, what should you do? Everybody says, well, buy things. You want to have property because the value of the property, well, the selling value will go up along with inflation. That's kind of the definition of it. And you don't want to be holding cash. So take your cash and buy things with it. Well, what do you buy? And a lot of people are like, oh, gold. Well, first of all, don't buy gold, buy silver. And secondly, don't buy silver. You can't eat it, you can't shoot it, and you can't use it to, dig a hole and start a garden. But let's just say you've got your bases covered. I mean, you are watching this channel. You got food, you got water, you got filters, you got guns and ammo, whatever's legal in your area. You got some safety stuff, you got some blankets, you got your bases covered. You're pretty set. And plus, all that stuff, would you ever really sell it off anyway? That's more like cover yourself stuff. That's not like I'm going to buy it up now and sell it in 2 years to protect myself from inflation. So you might think, yeah, I'm going to go get, 2 pounds of silver for a couple $100, Get it from a respectable source, first of all, because there's so many counterfeits going around, especially on eBay. But if you go on eBay, you're going to get, like, the best price pretty much in the world. Just get it from an actual mint with, like, 500,000 feedback. Sunshine is good. I think, like, there's, like, K something trading. I've bought from a couple. I mean, they're all good, obviously. They sell them for a couple bucks above spot, and the more you buy, the better it gets. So, there you go. So here's the thing. You pay 33 bucks or whatever per 1 ounce bar, a little bit above spot, and, well, can you sell them for 33? Absolutely not. You bring them day one to like a jewelry shop, a pawn shop, a scrap, anywhere. You'd be lucky to get half that. I mean, jewelry stores are like scamming you on that. I mean, a friendly price at a pawn shop right now would be like 20. So if you're going to lose a third right off the bat, no matter when you sell it, no matter what happens, well, that ain't going to make up for the inflation, is it? Plus, you're going to pay like, your state sales tax anyway on it. So like you're losing that right off the bat. So whenever I want to offload my silver, I put it on Facebook Marketplace, and I keep with the silver in my safe the actual original purchase. Like the invoice or receipt from eBay showing the picture and everything, so that they're like, okay, I get it. He paid this, and there it is. These are real. There you go. Plus, some of the Sunshine ones, I think, have like a hologram laser etched into the back of them, and with a special lens, it'll show up or something. The lens is like 14 bucks, though, so you don't want to lose that. But it does make it look more legit, even if you can't prove it. Honestly, professional collectors, they've been buying for years. They know what to look for. I mean, I sold to a guy who owns pounds of it. He's in his 60s. He's like, this is just my retirement. It's going to go up in the next 10 years. I'm like, You're not wrong. So if you're going to move it on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. Okay. And if it's a large amount, that's the thing. Like then you're probably just going to get robbed. I mean, bring multiple people back up, body armor. I mean, so if you're going to dump, $5,000 into silver, it's going to be hard to move no matter what. But if you're going to dump, a couple $100 into silver, yeah, you can flip it pretty quick. Just don't do it at a pawn shop or jewelry store. So that's your out on that. You're not going to lose much. In fact, you could probably sell it for the exact same price that you bought it for, not counting inflation and fluctuations in price. But basically like $3 above spot is what you paid. You could probably sell it for $3 above spot. Now, a lot of people go, they're deal hunters. They, there's a lot of listings out there. They'll say, how about exact spot? Sure, whatever. So you might lose like 5-10%, whatever. So it's like, how aggressive is inflation going to be if you think it's going to be above 5 or 10%, which I think 2% is the norm, and people are estimating it's going to be closer to like 20, 30, 50, 100%, who knows, in the next couple of years. Yeah, you're covered, Now, the other thing is if the price is skyrocketing, who the heck is going to buy it? There might be nobody buying silver because they're like, oh, this is like a 50-year high. Of course I'm not going to buy in right now. So you might not be able to offload it. So that's why I said don't buy silver. But if you do, I wanted to outline how to move it. And honestly, I've got about a half a pound of silver sitting around, just cause. It's what they call a diverse portfolio. I got seeds, I got food, I got tools, I got filters, I've got ammo. So don't just buy into one thing. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's kind of a given, but I should mention it. So what should you buy instead? Well, the one thing I've heard is tools, hand tools, because that's a big thing. It's involved in production. It's involved in like work. You could sell it to a company who wants to save money because operating expenses and labor went up and inflation went nuts. We might see production shortages. You never know. Like everything goes weird and people start not adjusting their companies properly and going out of business, and supply shortages, unemployment spikes. All that stuff happens when prices start going wacky, when, inflation either goes way up or way down. If deflation happens too, that's very bad as well. So when you can start selling, large lots of shovels and power tools to like construction businesses, like you're good. You're going to move that stuff real quick. So don't buy it brand new unless you have like the mother of all coupons on Black Friday and it's not some junk brand. And even that, the last time I bought like a 5-prong big fork thing, like a hay bale fork kind of, for flipping my compost pile, I paid like $42 for that thing at a hardware store. And that was like 2 years ago. There is no way in hell I'm getting $42 for that. I've been to flea markets, I've been to rummage sales. $10-15 is the max you can get, I think. So what you should do is acquire it in the same market that you're going to move it in, and at the same rating, quality, age, grading, however you want to say, so a 10-year-old shovel or whatever. Okay, buy it used and you're going to sell it as a 10 to 15 year shovel, So I'd be hitting Facebook Marketplace for like tool lots, estate sales, moving sales, whatever. And let's talk about like the market and the prices that match the method of sale. And that might sound confusing, but I'm going to make it make a lot of sense. So what price are you looking for something if you're a reseller? You do nothing but resale all day. We've seen a lot of like retired, couples do it. They go to rummage sales, they go to flea markets, they go to auctions, they go to whatever, estate sales, even, buying up storage units. So those people tend to really know the values. They're going to go on eBay, Amazon, they're going to look what it's worth, and they're going to sell it for 75%. So it's still a deal. They know they can move it, but it's not like, just get this junk out of my basement, Now, let's compare that to a rummage sale / garage sale / yard sale / tag sale, depending upon where you live. I've seen rummage sales where people are clearly resellers. They're clearly in this for the money, but the majority of them is just, I want this junk on and I don't want to take the label off and put it back in my garage or back in my basement. So the point I'm making is don't assume that all flea market booths and all rummage sales and everything are created equal. Stay away from the resellers. You're not going to get a very good price necessarily. You want to go for the people that are desperate, where they're in a closed, local, tight, time-constrained market, so the prices match accordingly. And then you're going to hold it for a while and sell it to like a slightly wider market. So right there, you're going to get more money. You're not in a hurry necessarily. You're just, okay, let's liquidate all the stuff I picked up. And the cheaper you can get it for, the better, you can flip it for later, especially if inflation never happens, which I doubt it, but, awful lot of work and an awful lot of money tied up if you spend $1,000 on all like tools, appliances, power tools, whatever, and then sell it for exactly the same amount pretty much in like 3 years because nothing happened. That's a lot of Facebook Marketplace meetups to move all the stuff and eat up hours of your time to make nothing. So if you right off the bat you can buy from anyone other than professional resellers, do it. generally watch out for them. They are like the last resort. So what do I mean by, watch your market, watch where you're shopping? Well, it's like, just your average garage sale where people are just like, I need this gone. I don't want it anymore. I want to just low effort, put a tag on it. Somebody gives me a couple bucks and walks away with it. Now it's not my problem, but I didn't have to get zero for it donating it. That's a better market than I'm trying to buy low in a large lot and sell high. And I do this professionally or on the side to make money because you're going to get a worse price. And then the even more aggressive one is like, we're moving in 3 weeks. We're having a moving sale. I don't want to move with this. If we don't sell it, it's going to a flea market or like, a bulk lot to somebody, or it's going to like a pawn shop, or we're donating it to a thrift shop. And I tell you what, you want to swing in, buy some stuff, and then swing in at the end of the last day on like a Sunday and just be like, hey, how much for everything? I'll give you $500, back the truck up. They are desperate to get rid of it because timer's ticking and they don't want to rent, a bigger truck or 2 trucks, or it just doesn't fit. They don't have an option. Their backs are against the wall. They have to get rid of this inventory. So they can't, have it for 85% eBay price and just have, 100 people come look at it and maybe one buys it. They're like, fire sale, $3 for this rake. Let's go. That's like, hey, we'll buy a new lawnmower when we get there. Maybe their new place doesn't even have a lawn. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's big enough they're going to, moving out to the country, they're going to get a riding lawnmower. So $20 for the lawnmower. That's a $100 lawnmower. So I've covered the very, very important topic of where to buy stuff. Always buy in the same market you're going to sell it. So don't buy new and sell used. You're just going to lose your butt. And I've told you where to get the best deals. So now let's move on to what you should, and more importantly, what you shouldn't buy. And way more importantly, why. I wouldn't stockpile stuff that doesn't store well. That's kind of a given. Something with gasoline, something with oil, something with, just small engine stuff. Some of it sits there for 10 years and it's still good if you drain it, run it out, and, protect it. And if you know how to kind of clean it and force new fuel through it and, whatever. But that's like the other number one rule. There's like 10 number one rules with all this. Like, don't buy retail and then sell used. That's stupid. Don't buy something that will degrade over time. Obviously. And if it is something that you just have to put basic protections into it, like you buy a knife and you want to just kind of oil it so it doesn't rust, then do it, before it goes into storage. Take care of the gasoline in a small engine device before you store it. Check the tires, deflate them, inflate them, whatever you're supposed to do. And obviously don't buy really weird exotic stuff like some, very specific device that does one specific thing. And the other thing is, don't buy something that people don't need, because if the economy's real tight and people are still waiting for like the inflation to catch up with their paycheck, and the boss is being a jerk, and they're making more money because they can charge more, but they just realized it and they're kind of 3 months behind their competition, and then they're like, oh yeah, we got to put our profits into paychecks, otherwise people will leave because everything went up evenly. Oh, but maybe I could wait another month because nobody's quitting and nobody's whining about it. I could pocket the difference. So everybody's still adjusting, and a lot of people are short on money because just everything's changing and everything's getting more expensive. And as they say, the paycheck is the last thing to go up when inflation happens. I don't think people are going to be buying, lawn edgers to get their lawn lines just perfect along their driveway. That's a dumb thing. Now, if you need a rake, you need a rake. If you need a lawnmower, you need a lawnmower. And if you need a shovel, you need a shovel. So it's not really optional. It depends what the project is. And if somebody's deck falls apart, they might just not fix it. But if you're sitting on a bunch of lumber or like an entire kit for a fence or something, which is still a kind of big, heavy, weird, and somewhat degrading thing to own. But, if a fence blows over in a storm, at least somebody with a moderate amount of money is going to be like, well, our dog is going to run away if we don't put the fence back. If they don't have the money, they're just not going to let the dog out. But, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I could see somebody semi-needing this. Now, you want to just stock up on like food? Look at my other thing about stockpiling long shelf life food. If somebody's just like, we can't afford food, well, you get rice, beans, and noodles, and you got a 30-year shelf life, and just tell them, hey, if you suddenly make $40 doing something, you cut somebody's lawn, do some labor, sell something, do a construction work, do a day labor thing, and you want to go to the grocery store, that's fine. The food you bought from me is there for years and years and years. Only bust into it if you absolutely need it. So if you need it day one, cool, buy it off me, no problem. And if you buy it now and package it, food hasn't really gone up that much. You could still buy, that I've seen, a 50-pound bag of rice for like $25 at the right place. And that is a lot of calories. So then you're covering yourself, but then I have a year worth, which is a lot. I guarantee within that year, I'm going to get really sick of rice and noodles. So that is honestly too much. But it's really the number one barter item besides, clean water or a filter. It's like, well, what do people need? Water, food, shelter, and you can go 3 weeks without food? You wouldn't feel great, but you could, but you can go about 3 days without water. And you go, I think it's 3 hours without shelter if it's like really, really bad weather. And you can't really sell shelter, so it's like, let's go down the line, you know? I will say, though, if it comes to selling food, somebody's probably going to shoot or stab you if they're, like, that desperate that they're like, I need to buy $50 worth of dry goods off of some rando on Craigslist. So how hard is it to sell? How likely is it to sell? How much do people need it? How dangerous is it to sell? How valuable is it? You know, if it's above a certain couple $100s, you're going to risk an issue. How bad might crime be when you're trying to sell it? How bad is it going to be if you meet somebody at your house and they know you have it and then they're going to break in later, shoot you, and take the rest of it? There's all these considerations about general security and how hard it is to offload the item, but at that point, I mean, yeah, 5-10% of people are going to be so poor they're going to get desperate. They might just send a message from their phone while they're homeless, show up in their car that they're living out of, and then try to attack you at gunpoint or hold it up and just be like, I'm taking this and you're not getting any money. You know, when the rest of people are like, they're just going to go to the grocery store, groan about the double prices and be like, oh, well, I got to eat. I guess I just won't buy whatever so-and-so, this and that. So food isn't the best item to flip. You know, that's why I wanted to mention it, but then kind of roll it back a little bit because there's some other considerations here. And that's why, like, if you buy up a bunch of hand tools, power tools, secondhand stuff, whatever, you know, especially plug-in power tools, so you don't have to dick around worrying about batteries and storing those safely and unplugging them and keeping them, you know, not topped up but not empty right in the middle. Very high maintenance item, unfortunately. But if you can offload that to a business that is making money and is going to be professional about it, instead of just some random person you don't even know, I mean, there you go. That's a lot easier. And if they're just like, I'm not going to go spend $300 at a hardware store for a drill, I'm going to go buy one for $50 on Craigslist, there you go. Now, that's an easy flip right there. So if you can pick up any kind of good power plug-in drill, some extension cords, you know, just random stuff at a garage sale for $2-3, especially a moving sale and especially an estate sale where somebody died, I mean, that is like aggressive move this stuff. It has to go as soon as possible. For every month I'm holding this house, I'm paying for not just house insurance and property taxes, but empty unoccupied house insurance, which is like triple. And trust me, the insurance company's going to find out. They're going to start asking questions when the billing name changes. These people are like, just get rid of the stuff. You know, just here, $5, take it, whatever. I mean, that's the kind of stuff where you could flip it day one for triple. Then who cares about inflation? You're holding cash, but you're holding 3 times the cash for the property. So why hold the property, you know? Unless it's a survival item that you could use. Like, you know, if you buy a tent, I'd maybe hold on to that. You can maybe use a tent. You know, tents are nice in case you got to evacuate or move somewhere. But I will say, like, who's buying a tent to go camping in the middle of inflation when they have no money? It's not a priority. That's like the definition of a luxury item. That's right up there with like a boat or like jewelry or a watch or something. You'd have to be out of your mind to buy something like that to hold on to. And people are like, oh, no, jewelry, it's made out of precious metals, it'll go up, and sometimes you can get it real good at estate sales. I wouldn't touch jewelry because nobody in a tight economy is going to be buying that. I mean, the rich people maybe still, but then a lot of the poor people who are out of work and desperate and they're not making enough to pay their bills and, you know, that kind of stuff, they're all going to be selling their jewelry. I mean, like, if you go to your wife and say, okay, we could get $1,000 for this wedding ring, you know, I know it's a wedding ring, but like, honestly, our marriage is more important than some dumb object, and we could get groceries for half a year with that. She'll probably say, yeah, let's do it. Let's sell both. Like, if you've been married for 10 years, you don't need some dumb symbol in a rock that was driven up by a fake marketing campaign pretending that diamonds aren't just pretty stones found in the ground that are worthless. Like, you ain't getting divorced. You get along, you know. And you're going to get along better if you have a bunch of food. You're going to get real grumpy if you're hungry. I'd sell the rings, you know, just saying. Let alone any other jewelry other than the wedding ring. I'm just saying, you know, last resort. But people are going to start moving stuff, and rich people are going to be like, well, I could buy from anyone. And then the price is going to go down because the sales pressure, the demand is going to go down, and the supply is going to go up. That's never, it's going to go the opposite direction of any kind of inflation. And if people start selling rings off and you know, jewelry, silver, whatever, it's going to drive the precious metal price down. And I think people are going to sell jewelry when they're desperate before they start selling like furniture and stuff. Although that'll be the next thing to go. And that's another reason why I think buying, you know, bars of gold and silver are just not a good idea. And, you know, when it comes to ammo, you can't list it on Facebook. You can't list it on Craigslist. And if somebody's interested in buying ammo 2 years from now when things are getting a little tight, that means they own a gun that matches it. That means they could bring the gun. And anybody who has a gun probably has enough ammo. So you'd be selling it to maybe a new gun owner, maybe. But if they're that adamant about it, they could probably just pick up a box of just enough to fill up the mags somewhere at a gun shop. You know, if it's not as nuts as it is right now, supply-wise. So it's like, why are they buying it from you? So it's one of those things where it's dangerous and weird, and it's not an absolutely needed item. except for the people who do need it, but then they have it because they're usually smart enough to buy it and hold it ahead of time as soon as possible. So I wouldn't buy up ammo to resell, and people say, well, what about 22 though? Yeah, because it's not a defensive, round. Typically, it's just like a go to the range and have fun or small game hunting round. But if the economy's tight and inflation's up, nobody's going to be going to the range and just plinking for the fun of it unless they're just that damn rich. In which case, like, what are they doing on Craigslist trying to meet somebody for a sketchy whatever in-person cash deal? Maybe they're into that. Maybe they couldn't find any elsewhere. But it's all this maybe. I'm telling you, maybe, more like probably, you're not going to be able to resell it. And like I said, Craigslist and Facebook don't allow listings. How are you even going to let people know? You're going to set up like a lemonade stand, except cross off lemonade and put ammunition, 9mm and 22, and set it up in the parking lot of the gun range. Not a terrible idea, but I'd rather buy, a whole bunch of shovels and power tools and then just sell them really easily. So I could list off every single category, but even I'm going to have some blind spots on this. I'm just giving you the idea of like, well, this doesn't sell and why. This isn't safe to resell and why. This won't have any demand and why. So then everything else, just put it through the same rules. I mean, I live in Wisconsin. If I picked up some farming implements, some just basic stuff, I mean, it's really big, it's heavy, and I don't know anything about what brands are good, and I can't transport it if it's, a tractor attachment. But boy, could I sell that. I mean, if people get desperate, and the manufacturers are already price gouging them, some tractors cost $100,000 or more. But if some attachment breaks and they can find it locally and they want to come pick it up, hey, cool. But like I said, transporting a big giant 1,000-pound whatever the hell, So easy to flip, not easy to store and transport. There's another thing that would be a disqualifier. So if you're thinking, well, what the heck is left? I mean, I can only buy so many drills, power tools, and shovels, dang it. I would start with household items that pretty much everybody universally uses that break. Definitely kitchenware. I would go with any kind of, especially brand new or lightly used, good condition, skillets, pots, pans, spatulas. The thing is, though, like right now, you can get a pretty good spatula for $1 at the dollar store. So if it inflates 100% to $2, I don't think anybody's buying it off you. But like an okay quality set of pans, like right now, you could get it at basically a liquidator, like Burlington Coat Factory. You could get some Faberware, a full set of 8 pans and pots and stuff, brand new in the box for like $50. If somebody's like, man, I torched this one, I cut this one apart, this one's all sticking, I'm barely cooking it, I'm sick of, getting scouring pads to clean it. They're either going for some brand new stuff or they're going to just switch to like ultra high-end indestructible cast iron, which I've got a lot of cast iron stuff I'm holding on to, just saying. A lot of it came from flea markets, a lot of it came from thrift shops. But even right now, they're going up at flea markets. I saw some big pans, pizza-sized, $50, and a lot of people were interested in making them offers for like $40. I mean, there is a big market for that. So yeah, cookware, especially home appliances. I mean, do people really need food processors or blenders? Not necessarily, but if they're really adamant about cooking things that require that, and almost 50% of recipes I look at require a food processor, if there's breaks, they're going to be like, yeah, I want one, but now all of a sudden they're $100 at Walmart, and you just pick one up for $10 at a thrift shop. Well, there you go. Rummage sale, even, Facebook Marketplace, you could pick one up pretty darn cheap. They're pretty small. And even right now, they're going up and they're fairly expensive. And they're almost universally made in China. So if there's a shipping disruption, a trade war, a war about Taiwan, which the U.S., although Biden's a moron, isn't going to let China control Taiwan, because then they control the flow of chips, and if we oppose them right off the bat, they're never going to sell us another semiconductor chip as long as we live. And that would be the end of all cars, computers, anything vaguely smart, dishwashers, and everything has chips in it. And it takes like 5 to 10 years to build a chip factory, not to mention any kind of like trademark or patent disputes over chip manufacturing. Yeah, we're decades away from rolling out an infrastructure in the U.S. They're trying, but, if things start getting tight, anything with a chip in it, you'll be able to sell it because the price will go nuts. Like, it'll go above inflation. Even if inflation doesn't happen, but a trade dispute and that kind of stuff and shipping disruption happens because of, who knows, a weather event. Who knows? All of a sudden you have a mudslide in Thailand and nobody can buy hard drives. It's just, these things have happened. There's a power outage in Taiwan and now nobody can buy iPhone screens. These things happen like every year, and with more aggressive storms due to, allegedly, maybe, if you believe the right people, more CO2 and more heat and more UV over the oceans, yeah, we're going to get worse and worse and worse weather events. Even if that's not true, earthquakes happen, volcanoes happen. So if you want to cover yourself in case of absolutely wonderful, peaceful trade for the next 30 years, but also inflation, or no inflation whatsoever, but a trade disruption, or both occur, small appliances. Anything with a chip, anything with a motor, anything made in China. Now, the other one is like bulk medications, not prescriptions, obviously, because you can't really do that. But like I've got 5 years worth of allergy meds, and I'm pretty sure, cetrizine or whatever, basically Zyrtec, is made nowhere in America. Now, it's multiple Asian countries, maybe some European countries, but as far as I know, nowhere in America. I could be wrong. As I think it was invented here, and like, I don't know, but I think even the big companies here have the stuff manufactured overseas just for price reasons. And I just can't live without it. But I started looking into buying in bulk, importing myself from other countries, direct from the manufacturers, which, good luck trusting that. I have no way of knowing if it's real until I take one and see if I don't have allergies for the day. And you got buyer protection within like 30 days on eBay and Amazon. They kind of check stuff a little bit. They pretend to, but if you want 1,000 days worth of Zyrtec, for your allergies, you can get it for like under $50 usually. And then it's not the safest thing in the world to store, and it's really not the safest thing in the world to take past its expiration date. So don't do that unless it's an emergency. But if people are desperate and their allergies are terrible and they don't have any pills, because I've had allergies be terrible with taking the pills. Can you imagine without anything at all? You could get a pretty penny for that stuff if it starts going up. And that's inflation and trade disruptions, either one. That's a huge, huge thing that people absolutely need and is susceptible to both trade disruptions and inflation. So you put it in Mylar, you put it in your basement, and you keep it away from any kind of heat, and you should be good. Those things, in theory, should last like 10 to 20 years unless they, like, every medication's different. You can look it up online and research it heavily. So the military especially has done studies on like how long can you really keep Tylenol and Advil and that kind of stuff, which, by the way, nobody needs. It's just a luxury item, basically. It makes you feel better, but you can tough it out, and it ain't exactly going to make up for like surgery. So I wouldn't try to flip that, or store that. And I think Tylenol specifically breaks down under any environmental circumstances unless you like freeze it. So do your research. It wouldn't be the first thing I would pick up, but if you need it personally, but then also you pick up like 30 years worth and you could flip it later, and it's enough money that if it all goes bad, you don't care, it might not be the worst thing to pick up, because you could scalp the hell out of it if it becomes short, just saying. But only if you buy more than you personally need. Otherwise, then you sell it, you don't have enough for yourself, and then you have money and no medication. So what's another thing around the house that people really, really, really need that would break and they'd want to fix it immediately? You might think, well, electrical infrastructure, so like wiring, outlets, that kind of stuff. But you can get an outlet for like 32 cents. And if you buy them in bulk, like 100 at a time from China or something, you could probably get them for like 10 cents. But that's a thing where, oh no, inflation, well now it's $1. Okay, people are going to go to the hardware store and spend $1. So it's too low. Extension cords, not a terrible idea. People pretty much borderline need it. If you need to get power further away, you need to get power further away. They are ridiculous retail. Secondhand, they're a lot cheaper. They tend to be dirtier and a little bit worn out, but the older it is, the better the metal mix is going to be, honestly. It's usually going to be pure copper instead of some iron coated or like copper plated iron disaster. So definitely, pick those up, and they don't take much room. You can just make a pile of them in your basement or in a box and just whatever, get a little Rubbermaid tin, and there you go. You got, 500 feet of them they got for cheap, and you could sell them for double or triple when the prices start getting nuts, especially to a construction company or any kind of contractor. That you could flip that easy. So that's a very, very high item, high priority for, yes, pick it up. It's super low. You could sell it for probably higher than what you're paying if you're, slow and gradual and careful about where you source it. That would be high on my list, definitely. By the way, to cut in real quick, sorry about the audio issues. I had my board gain turned up too high because something funny's going on with my sound card. And so my mixer was clipping, but it wasn't recording as clipping, and I didn't listen to it, so the audio is fixed in this part. I'll fix it for all future videos, but I just wanted to apologize for that. I'm a bit of an audio technician, so it drives me nuts when I hear clipping, but with my $200 mic setup, that should not be a thing. So my apologies, but I don't have the time or the script to redo this entire video. So just to reiterate, another like priority tier, like this is good, this is better. Are you buying something that people need or very, very much would want? And then obviously not want to pay retail for it, or, not want to pay an outrageous price. They'd be looking on the secondary market for it and be willing to buy it on the secondary market. So not dumb entertainment stuff, not dumb luxury items. People will still go after them, dumb people. But they only have so much money, and if everything doubled in price and their paycheck didn't yet, well, they're going to be buying the core stuff that they need. So don't try to buy and resell to them 3 years later something they don't need. But does a business or a company need this item? Not to live, not to survive, not to cook. It's, do they need it to perform their business operations to make money? Because what's a good way to get around inflation? Make more money, keep running your business. In fact, if you can raise your prices, then you really want to make more money because then you can pay your employees more. So I'd say, okay, business raw materials and stuff, but it's like they're used to getting that stuff from their vendors. I mean, how desperate would they have to be where they're like, oh, this price is unacceptable? They just up the price and pass it along to their customers and hope that they also got a pay increase and that everything matches inflation and raises evenly, which is not how it works. So like, are they going to be like, no, we're not going to spend $1,000 here. We're going to spend $500 on Craigslist and get some sketchy secondhand stuff. Most businesses don't do that. I mean, smaller businesses, okay. Really big chain businesses or franchises, hell no. But just remember that, if you've got somebody just doing drywall or somebody just doing plumbing by themselves or doing electrical work by themselves, they're independent, and you just call them up directly and be like, hey, I got a whole bunch of stuff I picked up pre-inflation. You want a deal? They'll be like, can't really turn down, an opportunity like that. That is kind of like an unsolicited business phone call, but, what are they going to do? Report you to the FTC for one violation? So it's a much wider category of, am I going to sell this to personal individuals for something they really, really need? Or am I going to sell anything to any type of area of category of business? I mean, hell, okay, this doesn't store very well, but just printer paper. You could just go to any business anywhere and be like, you want to buy 5,000 count boxes of printer paper for, $500, or you want to pay the inflation price of 1,000? They might buy off you. It's still one of those trust things, and it's like, it's like, why would you buy from some sketchy person you don't know? It's just odd. Would you even know to go on the secondary market and look for brand new, not recycled paper? Like, it's a weird thing, but like every business needs paper. So that's when you might want to just kind of post on Facebook to like your friends and family and just be like, does anybody at their business need some paper? Because then it's like they know you, and people need to be able to print. They need paper to run their business. So if you're offering them half of a highly inflated shortage price and crazy price, yeah, they'll probably go for it. It's not the hardest thing to unload. So now, do people in their home need paper? Absolutely not. That's why I'm saying it's a lot easier to pick up stuff that you can sell to businesses for business operations because they need it to make money. Whereas if you're selling to individuals in their house, they just need it to live or live comfortably. It's way, way, way wider when you get into the business world. So raw materials, business operation stuff, that would almost be the number one thing I would target, just because it's such a wider category. So you might be thinking, okay, what do people need personally, absolutely need, and also I can sell to a business for their operations? Air filters for a car. If it gets dirty, that's it. You have to replace it. Here's the problem. How do you offload it? Now we're talking model specific, ultra specific, only needed by a narrow amount of people. So if you pick up one for like an F-250, you can only sell it to people who need one right now. It's dirty. They also are looking on the secondary market, don't want to pay retail for it because the price is inflated and insane. Well, I mean, if you expand it to the entire country of the US, sure, you're going to find 50 people who are looking online for it, if not 100, if not 500. But then you have to have an eBay account to sell it. You have to ship it, which there goes 20, 30%. You're going to pay 12% in eBay fees. It's like, well, there you go. There goes all your inflation gains and margins. So it checks a whole bunch of boxes, but don't get too excited. You got to run it through the filter of how am I going to offload this into who? Is it too specific? And am I going to have to send it really far away? And am I going to have to send it, sell it through a marketplace that requires shipping and fees? Because then you're going to just blow up your margins. So I would never, ever stockpile air filters. But I do have a spare for my own car, obviously. So, I mean, that's another point. Don't get too excited because something is like, oh, this matches 75% if there's a disqualifier too. So don't just focus on the qualifiers like, oh, this looks so good, this looks so good. Focus on the disqualifiers. How am I going to get rid of this? Is it going to be a problem? Is it too specific? Is it a luxury good? Does it expire? Is it too dangerous to store? And that's why actually printer paper is a terrible idea, because any kind of temperature fluctuation and humidity, it's going to ripple and it's going to be unusable. Paper degrades very easily and it does not come wrapped in plastic. So you're probably thinking, oh, I could sell it to personal or business. Everybody needs it. It's universal. I could pick it up. It stacks really well. Oh, but it'll all turn to crap in 5 years and I can't sell it. That's a disqualifier. Don't focus on the qualifiers, focus on the disqualifiers. I mean, obviously, focus on both, but don't look at just one or the other. And if you're gonna be an idiot, at least focus on the disqualifiers then, because then you're out all the money because you can't move it or the product destroyed itself. So what else do we have on the list as examples? I'd say maybe long shelf life toothpaste, especially specialty toothpaste like Sensodyne, but that stuff, it does have a pretty aggressive expiration date. It's got all kinds of weird stuff in it, but it's mostly minerals. There's no sugars, and it's sealed, and it's not like pasteurized or heated as far as I know, but it should keep pretty far past its expiration date. But it's like, if it's expired 3 years ago and you're trying to flip it, I mean, that's going to be a hard sell to somebody when they could just pay double and go get one that's for sure safe at Walgreens, you know? So it's like, yeah, people really need it. You can't just not brush your teeth, but also it's the kind of thing where it's such a priority that unless it's just gone worldwide, they're probably going to get it online or somewhere, local and pay money for it. They don't care what it costs. And they're not going to buy it from you because it's expired. Same goes for canned goods. I mean, yeah, a lot of them are pretty far in the future, but it's like, you pay for a pallet of peaches in cans. It's like, how much are you really going to get that, flip that for? And it's not that many calories. And people tend to prioritize in their budget food above like any other luxury, dumb thing, entertainment, whatever. So it's like, they're not going to buy from you. They're just going to go pay more at the grocery store because you don't have the newest items and you don't have the variety of an entire giant store. So it's just, you're not going to flip canned foods. Flip usually implies like I'm going to buy it and sell it like the next day. I meant like buy it, hold it, and sell it. So whatever you'd call that, like inflation flipping. So I mean, if you see a working vacuum cleaner, it's at a moving sale, buy it. Could people just not clean their house? Yes. If they're used to cleaning their house, vacuuming once a week, once every 2 weeks and keeping it clean, and it's starting to get really dirty and it's driving them nuts and it's not sanitary, yeah, they're probably going to buy a vacuum when there's breaks, and they're probably going to look, if vacuums go from $200 to $400 at Walmart, they're going to look secondary market. Now, if you went to like, a Target, what else is there out there? A Shopko, other places that are closing and doing terrible. I'd say Sears, but I don't know if they have any left. You go real near the end. I mean, they might have some vacuum cleaners 50% off, 70% off, that kind of stuff. People will snag them for, even 30% off just for personal use because theirs is 20 years old, so it's kind of hard. But if you get the right deal on a brand new one and it's just, hey, we're closing, we're up against the wall, fine, have a better price. A thing which I call leveraging desperation. It's the exact same thing as going to a moving sale or an estate sale. You can get new in the box stuff for pretty cheap. So you're already at like a 30% advantage above, the market, not counting the secondary market. But anybody who's like, well, I kind of want a new one so I know it works and I know it won't break within a couple months. Yeah, I mean, and then you could store it a hell of a lot easier in the original box, in the original plastic, all, humidity proof, everything. It's sealed up, it's good to go, and you'll be the first one somebody buys from, if they're just looking to save a little bit of money. Like if you just mark it up a little bit, like in line with inflation, boom, you just caught up with inflation by holding a good that people need-ish. So I think at this point in the video, you're kind of getting the idea of like, okay, I'm getting the tests in my head. I'm getting, is this good? And is there a downside? All the different questions you could ask yourself. So let's just pick an item and run it through all the tests. Laundry detergent. Could you sell it to a business? I mean, not really. Okay, there's a point against it, but could you sell it to absolutely anybody else anywhere? Yes. I mean, you probably heard drug dealers were sometimes, instead of cash, taking like laundry detergent because then they could flip that for cash or taking that as payment or something. I heard a news article about that. It went viral. It's universal. It might as well be currency. I mean, you go back 200 years, it's basically flour. I mean, like, who doesn't use flour? Everybody bakes. If you went to the cheapest grocery store or the cheapest, possible store, go to like Big Lots if you have one of those, go to, I don't know, Aldi's, they're pretty good on detergent prices. Just go to Walmart instead of some high-end, ridiculous grocery store where you're going to pay double. And then if you can, get a manufacturer coupon, pick them up once per day, stop in 5 days in a row, use a 1 day limit, one per person coupon. Who's going to say anything? Use the self-checkout, all this, professional flipping, hustling kind of stuff that I do on a daily basis. Because if you're going retail to secondary market, because where the hell are you going to get like a gallon and a half of laundry detergent on the secondary market? And if you do, it's probably stolen right now. So you have no choice but to pick it up retail and try to sell it secondary later. You're going to want to take your time and take additional steps to push down the price as much as you possibly can. So do everything within your power to shop at the right place, get discounts, get coupons, get cash back deals, whatever, to pick up, 5 of the biggest, things of Tide or whatever that you can get. Go unscented, hypoallergenic, everything, the most, like, I'm going to sell it to the most general audience possible. So no fabric softeners, no additions, none of that crap. Actually, the all natural stuff's cheaper anyway. And get the high efficiency washer safe stuff, because a lot of people have that now. Like I said, most general, most widest audience that you could sell it to, I said audience, market that you could sell it to, that's what you want to target. And then if you just start throwing it out at like a flea market, a rummage sale, a Craigslist listing, I mean, just whatever, people might be like, yeah, I mean, it went from $30 to $60, and this person, you know, bought it for, with a coupon and discounted at a right store for 20 something, and now they're offering it for 40, 50. Yeah, okay. I mean, if they're like, I could get it brand new on the shelf, respectable, and not been stored for who knows how long, and who knows if they stole it, and why is this person selling detergent? Where did they get it? I don't know. I'm kind of weirded out. You know, I'll just pay $10 more and go to the grocery store. But I mean, if you bought it for 20, you're selling for 30, and the grocery store has it for 60, that's 50% off. That's when people might start to consider, you know, I am going to buy it secondary market. I'm going to buy it from this weirdo on Craigslist. And once I see that, like, oh, I get it, they're a professional reseller, or that's what you'd look like in that circumstance. They show up and you look like you got, you know, a whole shelf full of it, plus vacuum cleaners and whatever else you all hoarded. And then the other thing is, when somebody shows up to buy one item for $30, make sure you show them the rest of your items. If it's good security, locked up, you know, in your own home, you got a gun, you got good kick-proof doors and an alarm. Because at the same time, you're advertising, hey, come steal from me. I've got a bunch of valuable stuff. If they see the rest of the inventory, they're going to be like, oh, I mean, what else you got for cheap? You know, hey, let me run to the ATM, or I got some more money on me. Yeah, I could also use this, that, and the other thing. I could use some paper towels or whatever, which is another golden item because it's wrapped in plastic, it's waterproof, and it doesn't degrade so much. Yeah, go get some rolls of Bounty right now, because that's the kind of crap that goes up. Go get some facial tissues, aka Kleenexes. Pick that up, absolutely. Paper plates, sure, pick those up. People go through that stuff. They need it. It's daily stuff. They need it to eat, especially if you're too lazy to do dishes or live in a place with a dishwasher and don't even own dishes because you just use paper. Plastic forks and cutlery and stuff. You get that bulk right now on Amazon, man, but that's kind of flirting with it's so cheap that people just wouldn't care. Like if a set of 500 goes from like $10 to $15, nobody's going to care. They're going to pay $5, like whatever. It lasts so long, who cares? You know, so that's why I'm thinking, well, just normal house goods that people go through and need. That's why laundry detergent is like #1 on my list. And those are pretty durable, good plastic containers. Now you look at like bottled water, you look at like, you know, bottles of like, you know, rubbing alcohol and stuff. The expiration date is the date of the plastic in the bottle degrading. And then it's going to start leaking, and then you've got a problem. Detergent stuff, it tends to be thicker, it's nicer plastic, it tends to last, you know, 10, 20, 30 years easy. If you keep it out of UV, oh my God, keep it out of sunlight or you're going to have detergent spilling all over. And high temps, you know, if you put it out in your garage, it gets to 110 in there, you're also going to have a problem. That might even break down the detergent. So it's one of those things where you got to be careful how to store it. So that's another thing. Does it degrade? You know, that's another thing to ask yourself. Just because you see a bunch of yeses, yes, it's a good idea for this reason, that reason, doesn't mean you shouldn't consider the no's, the how hard is it to move? Are people going to look for this? Are people going to buy it? Is it a good enough margin? Am I going from brand new to secondary market? Is that okay? Is the margin okay? Will it store? Will it degrade? Is it dangerous? How heavy is it? How big is it? You start to get questionable stuff when it comes to detergent, but you could buy it in smaller quantities too, especially. That'll help, although the bigger ones are like better, and then you could subdivide it and start selling it in like, you know, split into quarters and stuff, and then you bought in bulk and they didn't, and then you get even more of a premium and a better margin and stuff. But I think all things considered, when you start asking all the questions, are paper towels and plates and detergent and just daily use stuff, is it a good idea? I'd lean towards yes. I would pick it up. It is big, it is heavy, there are considerations, it's not indestructible, but it's generally one of the better things. And then worst case scenario, you yourself have 10 years worth of detergent you could use yourself for doing laundry. So then you've protected yourself from inflation just based on the fact that you yourself can use it and you bought it when it was cheaper. So then you don't have to buy it later. So that's just a wonderful case study example of like, let's pick an item and let's run it through all the tests, all the considerations. So I did hint at like dangerous stuff. Let's focus on that. So cleaning chemicals, fertilizers, that kind of stuff, too dangerous. It's just anything caustic, flammable, gasoline, alcohol. I'm not going to store it because I don't want to burn my house down. You know, I'm not going to have gallons and gallons and gallons of flammable whatever in my basement because that's insane. You start having certain types of like weed killers or like nitrogen fertilizers leaking, you're going to have a bad time. So that is out. I don't care if people need it for emergency gardening, farming, whatever. It's just too Dangerous. Now, self-defense items other than ammunition, like LTL stuff you don't need a license for, you don't need to be 18, you don't need a background check, so look up, where you live, what your laws are, but you can get bulk pepper spray. You can get like 24 packs of pepper spray from America, from the manufacturer, from overseas. Brand new, sealed, retail, plastic, hangers, shelf hangers, you're good to go. Like, you can get that stuff right now for like $4 or $5, and the retail price on it right now today, full blown, let's go to the hardware store and buy it, is like $12 to $14 typically. So remember, buy in bulk brand new. People like to buy stuff that's brand new, and you're already leveraging the fact that you're just buying it, slowly from a bigger source, from a not retail store with a bunch of overhead and expenses and employees, inter-country, economy things. You can leverage that, and you can get it cheap right now if you're careful about where you buy it, and then sell it individually. So you're leveraging like the bulk, the economy, everything, to get the lowest possible price, and then you're trying to flip something that people are like, man, things are getting a little weird, a lot of people unemployed, a lot of people desperate, I could use a self-defense item. You could flip that stuff real quick 2 years from now, and then even if things are super calm but inflation happened, you could still move them pretty darn easily. You go to a flea market and put that out on a table, people are going to be like, should I protect myself, keep this in my purse for $10-15? Yeah, I mean, $10-15 worth of safety, sure, I'll just skip, at that point, a foot-long sub at Subway. I'm sure they're like $9 right now. Do I want a sub? Do I want, a drink at Starbucks? Or do I want to protect myself for the next 5 years from attackers and like muggings and stabbings and home invasions? Yeah, I probably should. It's an impulse buy. It's always in the impulse aisle. It's on the end of the aisle in the hardware store. I mean, that's why you see it where you see it, because people walk by and they're like, yeah, I should. So a little harder to sell. I mean, people don't tend to leave their house for like, oh, it's a $5 item, now it's a $10 item. Am I going to drive across town for a $10 item? Did I even know to look for it before I even thought of it as a thing? And if you were aware of pepper spray, then why don't you already own it? Like, if you're aware of it and you're like, I should get that, why are you waiting, It's not a $500 shotgun, so it's not the easiest thing to sell because people either don't know to look for it or already look for it and already took care of the issue. But if you go to a place, you hold a rummage sale, you go to a flea market, you'll move it pretty quickly. So it's an added step, but it's a pretty lucrative item if you do it right. So, I mean, if we're starting to talk about, self-defense items, you could think, oh, well, baseball bats, because you can always get those. I mean, that's the cliche one, obviously, the whole, what do you keep next to your bed, The answer is a shotgun, but I guess, if your budget is $5, it's a baseball bat. But if your budget's $10, I mean, pepper spray, so like, come on, but still. Matt, I could go to the Goodwill bins on any day and buy 5 baseball bats. I'm just saying, I could collect those real quick, put them all in a box, have 50 of them. They don't take up, that much room. And if crime starts skyrocketing, people start, all of a sudden caring about their self-defense, well, still a second-hand bat is probably only going to be $10. So it's like, it seems like a good idea until you really look at the big picture. So I wouldn't. And then when you start getting into like retractable batons, contact tasers, and a lot of that stuff isn't allowed to be listed on Facebook and Craigslist, so then how do you advertise it? And would people know to look for it? And would the price be different enough that people, wouldn't be willing to go out and pay a little bit premium retail for a self-defense item when they're suddenly like, oh man, there's been home invasions, there's been muggings, I need to do something, I need to pick something up. It's going to be a high priority. They're not even going to think to go to the secondary market, especially if your listings are suppressed or removed. So self-defense items seem like a good idea, but like I said with the pepper spray, it's not the easiest thing in the world to move because of listing restrictions and people not knowing to go look for it, or when they do look for it, they'll just be like, fine, I'll pay $50 for it, whatever. So I wouldn't necessarily stock up on like baseball bats, clubs, that kind of stuff. Even bows and arrows, you can get them real cheap, but it's so hard to offload. So one thing I wanted to mention is just generally side hustle stuff, or even your main career. Now, if you work at a jewelry store, but you've got sales experience at 5 different sales things, you used to sell cars, you used to sell this, you used to sell that, and now you just happen to work at a jewelry store because you're a good salesman. Okay, that is going to be the first thing to go in an economic squeeze. People do not buy jewelry. They do not buy dumb stuff, that luxury items. Like I said, boats. If you're selling boats, you're out of your damn mind and you're going to be out of a job as soon as the economy tanks. I mean, if you didn't notice that around 2008, then let me warn you right now. Luxury, unnecessary fields of work and feel like you working at a place that sells something that people don't need is an incredibly bad idea if anything bad is going to happen economically. I mean, if rich people or business owners are like, charging more, and then they pay their employees more, and they make more, and then they spend slightly more. It's all a wash. Who cares? But it doesn't catch up evenly. And then the squeeze starts to hit the middle class and the lower class because they're the last ones to get a pay increase. Business owners, especially smart business owners, they see it first. The low-level employees, they're the ones who see the pay increase last. When people finally realize, oh, people are quitting, turnover went up. Oh, that's right, I should probably pay them more. You look at the end of the month, numbers, and you're like, oh, this margin, that thing, the cost of goods, our prices went up because we're still matching our competitor. And, oh, yeah, I probably should pay the people more. It is the last thing that catches up with inflation is wages. So first of all, get out of bad, unnecessary careers that sell unnecessary things, just whole fields of categories of goods and services. Like if you're a limo driver, it's a great time to go become like a commercial semi driver, because which one is going to be needed in 2 years? Like needed, as in actually needed. I mean, I get it. Maybe you're getting paid really lucrative and you've got really, really good, it's a good place to work. I mean, there's more factors in this. I'm not saying just absolutely jump ship on your career. And don't take a 20% pay cut to work somewhere better when it's like, well, maybe inflation won't even go up 20% and then you just lost money. It's better than losing your job completely, but this thing's going to level out eventually. So as long as you got 6 months living expenses, as a buffer in the bank, or have it tied up in goods, which is the entire point of this video, then you can keep working where you like to work and where you've got a good commission, if you're a salesman, like I said, it's just the example. But I did mention earlier in this section, side hustles, part-time jobs. Like me, I make, YouTube videos for 5 different channels, and it doesn't quite pay the bills. I mean, it kind of does, but I'd like to make more, and I've got some free time, and I want to mix it up a little. So I do general resale. I pick up stuff low, sell it high. I sell stuff on eBay, find it places, Goodwill, bins, thrift shops, whatever, and then I sell it for 5 times as much on eBay. Makes a couple extra $100 to a couple extra $1,000 per month, depending upon what I find. So there you go, a couple extra hours of work doing that. So let's say your side hustle is piano lessons. That's luxury. That's pure, like, nobody needs piano lessons. No offense, but nobody needs it. So that is going to get cut out of the budget real quick when people start getting a little tight on the paychecks. So you might want to shift that to something else. Now, you don't want to start over at zero, stop making money, and then it takes 6 months to ramp up a new business, and then effectively, if you do the math, you lost $5,000 by stopping piano lessons. But if it's a good time, you're not too far into it, it's not insanely lucrative, it's just kind of whatever, work as you go, who cares? Like you're making crappy money just, working for Uber with, terrible depreciation on your car, and you're working for DoorDash, you don't even get paid a commission based on what it is, you just get paid per hour, just bad side hustles, and then neither of those do anybody need at all. I mean, people kind of need transportation, but at a certain point they're just going to ride a bike or walk. And you're like, yeah, you know what, I am going to get out of that, and I'm going to get into something else. When inflation hits, be on the production side of things. Don't be even on the services side of things. Be on the I'm producing a good. So either value added services, value added like processing of things. Like you get in raw materials, chain link links, and then you build, chainmail purses. Bad example, horrible luxury item that nobody will be buying, but just, work with me here. And then you take 3 hours, process it into a nice little chainmail, purse, and then sell it for triple what the raw materials were. Okay, now you are producing a thing. If you are producing a thing, that thing is worth more because of inflation. So once you get into a business that produces something, you are in production. You are taking tree branches, drawing them out, and, carving them into walking sticks and varnishing them and then selling them. You are now producing a thing. That is where you want to be when inflation hits, because just whatever you're doing goes and rides right along with it. The prices go up, and all of a sudden the thing you're doing is now more lucrative and more valuable. But was there inflation on like raw materials? Yes, but was there inflation on your time? No, it still takes the same amount of time and skill. So that didn't go up, but you're making more money. Now, okay, did your time deflate or inflate when you could have been working somewhere else that did catch up with inflation and making more hourly? The average cost of labor paid out went up along with inflation eventually. Okay, it's a factor, but just compare, you do produce something to you're working in a side hustle where you don't produce something. producing something is always going to be better. And that was the point of this section. So I wanted to point out not just, what do you take, $5,000 out of your bank account and put it into goods? What kind of goods should you pick up, which is the topic of this video. I also wanted to throw in, make sure you're working in the right area and that your job, which is kind of like an asset, or your side job, which is also like a valuable asset, doesn't also get just obliterated by inflation. So don't work in a dumb luxury, entertainment, unnecessary, dumb field, especially if it's an optional side hustle where you can start doing something else. And make sure that whatever you're doing, it involves producing a good, because if goods go up, then your income goes up and you're fine. Your career or your business model will be inflation proof because it rides the prices up with it. Hopefully that makes sense. There's a lot more like economic information stuff I could go into and all math and all that, but this isn't an economics video. I just wanted to throw it in so you're not like, oh, cool, I've got 50 gallons of liquid detergent and a bunch of tools and power tools and I'm set. I'm just going to sit here and enjoy everything for the next couple years. And I'm going to flip it for, I've spent $5,000 on it. I'm going to flip it for $8,000 and I'm set. And then your career gets completely destroyed and your income goes down the toilet. There's amount of money and value and property that you have, and then there is your income and your revenues. Those are kind of two assets in a loose sense. Do not just focus on one or the other. If either one tanks, like you've got a really, really good solid job, you work like medical or insurance or something very, very, very necessary, and then your bank account is $10,000 and all of a sudden your money gets devalued and you have half the spending power, oops. But then if you tie up everything, you got crypto, which I still don't think is a very good investment because it fluctuates like crazy. And then you've got like precious metals, you got tools, you're all super set, and then your job just gets obliterated because you sell boats and nobody's going fishing because nobody has any money and nobody wants to spend double on a boat or a motor. Or people go from new boats to, I'm fine, okay, I'll buy a secondary market one. You're going to go out of business, you're not going to have a job. And then, okay, cool, your portfolio and your bank account wasn't, US dollars, and you can flip it for a good amount and avoid inflation, but also you don't have any income coming in. So do consider both things equally. Do not ignore one or the other. So I could keep going on, different items, different examples, but I think you have now the knowledge to just assess any given thing you could possibly think of, and it's just, go through it in order. Like, am I picking it up from the right source? Is it something people would want? Is it something people would need? How easy would it be to move it? Can I legally advertise it on the major websites where people sell stuff secondhand? Is it too valuable and it's dangerous to try to sell it in person for cash for $1,000 because somebody might steal it or shoot me? Is it durable? Will it last? How big is it? How heavy is it? How hard is it to transport? How aggressive will the supply versus demand curve get when people start offloading it if they have one but don't need it? I think I already said this, but will it degrade over time? How hard is it to store? Is it dangerous to store? Does it expire? Will it worry people about its age and they'll just pick up one new for a little bit more money? Will it just depreciate because, it's a computer and there are newer, faster computers like a laptop? Or even just computer parts, repair parts and stuff. You might think, oh yeah, because if somebody's computer breaks, of course they're going to need one. But also technology is going to move ahead and it's going to go down in price no matter what. So you're never going to catch up on that. Yes, if 3 years ago you stocked up on certain graphics cards, you probably could sell them for double right now, but now is a special circumstance. So now that you have the general guidelines, the questions to ask yourself, you can look at anything. You could just not even have a concept of it and then walk into an estate sale and say, oh yeah, I never thought of that, but yeah, I should buy that because I could flip it. I could hold it safely. People will need it, Or you could look at something like a garden hose and you'd be like, oh man, a $3 garden hose. Those are like $30 at the hardware store. Yeah, but like who needs a hose? Who needs to water their lawn if things are getting kind of tight, If it doesn't make sense. It's heavy, the vinyl can degrade, it's big, wouldn't be my first choice. It looks like a good idea on the surface because it's like a home and garden, home good tool kind of thing, but now that you watch this video, you're smart enough to know, no, don't pick up that hose. Now, if in your backyard you got a barn, pick up the hose. What the hell? Fill up the barn. If you've got, 3,000 square feet, just pick up everything. Who cares? And also, if it's $3, you can flip it day one. Just post it on Facebook or Craigslist like right now for $10 and, there you go. Right now, today, people don't want to pay hardware store prices. Although that comes into one more thing that I always think about just as a reseller, because I just buy stuff all the time at thrift stores, especially the Goodwill bins. Just go there and just look at everything. Because they sell them by the pound. So small items especially, which are the ones you want to go after in store because they're small and light and they take up less room. And you can just walk around and be like, oh yeah, I didn't even think of that, but now that it's in my head, yes, it passes all the tests, I'm going to pick it up. And then also, you're not going to pay very much for it. But Do you have to test it, and how likely is it to be defective, and can you test it before you leave the garage sale, the thrift store, the whatever? So a hose, yeah, you got to hook it up, you got to put an attachment on, and then you got to see if it leaks. That's time out of your day. If you're going to buy it for $3 and sell it for $10, is that worth your time? $7? Absolutely no, it is not. Now, if you have a garden, it's far away from your house, and if your hose leaks, you are absolutely, your crops are going to die, then yeah, you should probably own 3 hoses. You know, that's you. That's personal. That's cover your own self. But that's a different topic than just, I'm going to take money out of my bank account and put it into goods, wait for inflation to happen, and then sell the goods, which is the context of this video. But everything's in the context of safety and prepping and, you know, prepping for disasters and covering yourself first. So if you can cover both, like, hey, it would be nice if I had a spare of this, and also it's a nice thing to hold in case of inflation, well then, yeah, pick it up. And hey, I did knock out this video in about an hour. I was looking at the outline and it looked more like 2 hours, but I had a Bang energy drink, and I don't usually because I'm not supposed to have caffeine, but I got 4 hours of sleep. So this is just like a barrage of information coming at your face at lightning speed. So if you're into that, or most of my videos are a little bit slower, although, and read the comments, some people are like, damn, you speak fast. Hey, I mean, some of my videos are like a college course level of information, like food preservation and like biology and pathogens and everything. And I fit that into, I think, an hour 5 in my other video about like how to pack it, Mylar, what not to do with the failures, you know, what not to do wrong. I mean, if you were learning that in person, that would be an all-day seminar. So it's like, you know, if you appreciate that kind of stuff, and there's whole services out there that take like audiobooks and condense them down to 30 minutes and summarize it. Let's just say if you're not into it, I mean, there's the 0.75 playback speed on YouTube. Feel free to use it. Otherwise, a lot of people are like, yeah, man, this is a time saver. I mean, I'm driving to work 20 minutes. I listen to one of your videos, and I mean, that's a lot of information all condensed into one, when other people are just sitting there and dawdling and putting dumb, irrelevant details and no editing into their videos. I can't stand those channels that do that. According to my Audacity tracks, I took 180 pauses and edit points in just this video, which is every 30 seconds I cut something out or cut out a pause or re-recorded something. So just saying, I mean, in my humble opinion, totally unbiased, I think this is pretty much the best prepper channel on all of YouTube. Just as far as like pure information. So if you made it this far in the video and you're like, yeah, I got some good information out of this, one, send it to everybody you know, send it on Facebook. I mean, nothing is worse than family members or friends coming to you in a rough situation, economic or like collapse style stuff or weather events, because they weren't prepared at all and now they're a burden to you, when you could send them like a link to my entire channel, not to mention just this video, and then they're like, hey, I should do that, and then they all get themselves set, and then you got like a network of people who are all good to go, you know? It helps you, it helps them, and it helps me. So I mean, send this link to this video to everyone, and don't forget to subscribe and check out the other videos on my channel. We got way more coming in the future. I've got this cool like little mini turbine that you can fit in like your pocket that can charge a cell phone. So I'm going to go climb up on a mountain and test it. I finally got the correct testing equipment. My God, that took like 28 days to get here from like 2 states over. Like, what the hell? Did they send it to the moon first? But anyway, that video is coming up. That's kind of cool because everybody's like, solar, solar, solar. Well, you drop your solar panel and you're out of luck. So this turbine, tough as nails. Of course, the pictures were complete and utter BS. I have to solder it myself, so I have to do that today. But like, man, we got cool videos like that coming up. I'm going to show you how you can take a little tiny $50 solar setup and run a chest freezer on it for basically all eternity. That's going to be pretty cool. And we're going to be taste testing sometime this week a brand new off-the-shelf, very common brand of survival food to see how awful it is. I've heard it's terrible, but we'll see. I'm not picky, I'll eat anything, so, you know, hey. And then I've got some roughly 11-year-old food that's right on the verge of expiring, so we're gonna try that. So assuming I don't die from it, we will have that video posted hopefully later this week as well. So you don't want to miss it on all that. There's not a lot of content that's, you know, that scientific, exacting, and experimental based on YouTube. So hit subscribe if you're like, yeah, I'm into that, and thanks for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time.